How does it sound to make $10,000 per month doing Airbnb traveling from anywhere around the world? Well, that's exactly what I was able to do while being in college. I started and maintained a six-figure Airbnb business in college, putting little to no effort at all. And best of all, I didn't even own a single house. That's right, you can start doing Airbnb without owning a single property. And if you have enough to put a deposit of $1,000 to $3,000, you can get started right away. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through step-by-step process on how you can start running an Airbnb business with little to no money. We'll be covering how you can find a property to list, how to negotiate the deal, list it on Airbnb, and lastly, scale the business to a 6 or even 7-figure business. If that sounds good to you, let's get started. First, let's talk about some of the common methods of running an Airbnb. Although this video is focused on starting an Airbnb business with little to no money, there are other methods. First one is to obviously purchase a property for the sole purpose to run it as a vacation rental. By hosting the property on Airbnb, you're able to not only pay down your mortgage with the earnings, but even make an extra income on top of that. Normally, you can't do that by renting out property as a long-term lease, so vacation rental is definitely advantageous here. Another method is something that I would normally do if I were to purchase a property where you rent out rooms in your own house or even an ADU to subsidize your mortgage. Last but my favorite is the rental arbitrage method, where you find a property to rent and sublease it on Airbnb. This method is the most cost effective in my opinion because you don't have to worry about a lot of the maintenance fees and taxes associated with owning a property, but instead you're able to turn regular rental properties into a vacation rental cash cows. There are so many other methods to utilize Airbnb, but in today's video we are going to be focusing on the last method since it's the easiest and the cheapest to start off with. The next step is to set realistic expectations. There are a couple of obstacles that you have to keep in mind. First off, it might not be as easy as you think to find a property that you can get an agreement to sublease. There are a lot of property owners and property management companies that are against subleasing to protect their properties from any unnecessary wear and tear. Also, you have to be willing to lose money in the beginning because in order to be profitable, simply you need to make more money than your rent and the amount of taxes on top of that. When you do find a property to arbitrage, just because you list it on Airbnb, that doesn't mean you're going to start making money right away, since the system does take some time to give impressions to your listings. So you're not going to get rich overnight, but once you get the momentum rolling, you can easily make 6 figures after you scale to 2 to 4 properties, depending on your location. Just like owning any type of business, the foundation and the start is the key, and it'll get easier after that. I know for me, it took a little over a year from expanding 1 property to 5 properties, but don't think you can just expand like a wildfire unless you pick a good location, which is our step 3, which is picking your market location. The biggest and important factor is choosing the location that you'll be looking to set up the vacation rental business. When choosing your market, the best places are touristy spots, but other acceptable areas are highly congested areas that are next to important areas such as national parks, state parks, popular cities, or anywhere that has some sort of big reason to visit. For example, in LA, it might be near an airport, a Disneyland, downtown, or whichever. When you sort and pick out a place, ask yourselves these questions and rationally answer them yes or no. Is the location popular among tourists? Is it attractive to locals? Is it around businesses or attractions that are popular among people? If you're not located in a tourist-friendly area, then you should probably target the locals. If you don't answer yes to any of the previous questions, I want you to really have a good reason for the place. Whichever location you choose, do your due diligence research, which is the next step, to research and audit on Airbnb or other vacation rental sites to see the prices per night, where they're all located, and the vibe of the properties. Look, when you're going into a boxing match, you're going to hopefully analyze your opponent to know their fighting style and what to look out for, and what is their key weakness. You're not blindly going into a ring hoping to win the match. The more you prepare yourself, the higher the chance you're going to come out on top. That is the mentality that you need when approaching to do this business. After all, it is a business, so the more you research, the more you know of your enemies and the better success you'll have in the long run. Before you even start to look for properties, you need to look up the local regulations and laws for short-term rentals in your area. Because when I was doing Airbnb in Hawaii, the laws were constantly changing, and in some ways, it was getting a lot more difficult to maintain the business. One question you can ask yourself is, are they even legal, and what are the minimum amount of days that you're allowed to run for a short-term business? Whatever the law is, make sure you thoroughly research this to avoid any illegal confrontations while you do your business. Next, using websites such as Airbnb, Turo, Zillow, and other websites, look up the properties in the area for a short-term rental. For example, on Airbnb, you can look up what are the general price range for a studio, 1 bed, 2 bedroom, a loft, a shared house, a glamping site, and a tiny house, or whatever that you're interested in setting up. You need to know how much you can potentially get per day and also find out the average rate of bookings that the location will receive. For example, in Waikiki in Hawaii, where I used to host Airbnb, prices for a studio room was about $120 to $150 per night, and they would get around 20 days average bookings per month. If I charge $150 for similar quality unit, that's roughly $3,000 per month. If my rent was $2,000, then my net would be $1,000 before all the taxes and miscellaneous expenses. Generally, you want to research these things when auditing: local laws, price of rent, price per night on Airbnb for similar properties, the location that are high in demand, the average number of nights booked, and lastly, the general quality of your competition. If anything, this step is probably what differentiates you from having success or failing, so please take this step seriously and take the time to master the skill. When you finally finish with your Sherlock Holmes research, you are now ready to find the property, which is step 5. Since we're not actually purchasing the property, but only looking for a sublease, like I mentioned, it's more difficult to get it approved by a lot of the owners because they just don't have any interest in allowing a vacation rental for their precious investment. Or perhaps they do allow it, but the law says you can't because it's not in an appropriate zone to host vacation rental. This is why the previous step of researching your competition is crucial, once again, because those buildings or areas they are running are most likely allowing short-term vacation rentals. What I did in the past is to find buildings of a hotel that people are running their units as rentals, and I'll look for all the available units for the building on Zillow. And then once I find them, I would contact all of them. And if you're lucky, you'll stumble upon a property that will allow you to sublease. And from there, it only gets easier since you have to start styling the property, which is step 6. I can't stress how important the aesthetics of a unit is to the potential guest. This is one of the key areas where I see so many people failing at most. They don't take enough time to spy on the competition to make their units stand out. At the end of the day, you're fighting for the same customers in your area or the building, so why would the guests pick your place over others if yours looks crappy? When I was doing Airbnb, many people were just trying to make money on Airbnb with shit designs and furnishing, but with the day and age where we thrive on hospitality and technology, the competition are doing better than ever, so you need to stand out amongst them. If you're not good at designing or furnishing, just look at your competition and incorporate similar style and furnishing from like Ross, Goodwill, or even IKEA. One good question is, would you be willing to stay there or not be ashamed to have your friends or family members stay there? If the answer is yes, then you've probably done a good job. If you want help with furnishing, then leave a comment below and I can make a video on how I style the property. Once you finish with your furnishing, it's time to take the professional listing photos for your place. As important it is to beautifully style your place, please do not take some photos that look like it was taken on a potato. You can save costs on this to take some decent photos with your phone, but at the end of the day, these photos are going to be your bread and butter to get guests and ultimately make more money. Plus, you're going to be using them for a long time, so why not get a professional photo in the beginning to save you the hassle? I think this step is pretty straight and clear cut, so let's move on to the fun part, making your Airbnb listing. Listing on Airbnb is probably the most easiest and the fun part because you get to showcase your property that you work so hard setting up and preparing. You want to post the professional photos that you took, and the order of the photos should start with the room that the guests will stay in, then the common areas such as the living room and the kitchen, then the bathroom, and lastly the exterior or amenities that come with the unit. The reason for this order is because people want to know where they sleep. Wouldn't you want to know where you're going to be sleeping? Then you would think about the bathroom, the living room, and all the goodies that come with the place. And as for the rest of the listing details, fill out as best as you can with accurate information and keywords to rank your listing. You want to be as detailed as possible, and again, hopefully you've done your research on your competition to see what they offer and say so you can improve on those. Okay, we are now halfway done. Okay, I'm kidding. We're almost done and I'm really exhausted already. I thought this was going to be a short video, but I guess not. Before we move on, please check out the link in the description where I'll be leaving my Airbnb ambassador link that you can use to sign up and receive $75 when you start hosting. Who doesn't want free money, right? And best of all, I get to be your ambassador and help you out on your listing. Oh, and I totally forgot that you need to be setting your price for your listing. I highly recommend undercutting your competition's price in the beginning to get some attraction and reviews, and then think about ramping up your price later on with positive reviews. And if you really want to automate this depending on the holidays and season, then check out my other link in the description to a platform called Pricelabs, where they use a software to automatically price your listing as best as possible, comparing it to the competition and seasons. This also means depending on the supply and demand of the season, the site will automatically price your listing. If you use a link, you'll get $10 off your first month. With that being said, shall we move on to the final important step, which is to hire and set up your neat Airbnb team. This step is honestly optional because I started the business doing everything myself, meaning I cleaned the place, I restocked the place, and I checked in the guests. And this is probably what you want to do in the beginning to save as much expense as possible. You want to operate at the highest margin in the beginning to help you reinvest into the unit and improve it. But eventually down the road, you do want to hire cleaners and possibly a manager to manage their units and continue scaling to more properties, which is the bonus step. One room is great, but 3 rooms are awesome, right? Don't you want to make more money? I remember I made about $1,500 in net income from one property, but once I started scaling to 3 to 5 rooms, I quickly made $5,000 to $10,000 a month, automating almost everything. At that point, it really becomes a job to manage the units to see if everything is going well with your team, and hopefully you can buy your own property to really take this Airbnb game to the next level. Well, hope you guys found value in today's video, and please check out my video on top side hustles if you're interested in increasing your stream of income. I would appreciate if you like and subscribe because I share everything that I've learned through my entrepreneurial journey, as well as topics on personal finance, side hustles, and figuring out ways of becoming financially free. Peace.